Are you? Is it that? Is it John? Is it that time of the month for you?
Is it Woburn?
He's got his no contact jersey on. His red non-contact jersey.
I was
John,
trolling.
Please go live while Les is fixing his shirt.
We are live, actually. This is the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast, and we actually started a few seconds before 2 o'clock, which is because our producer's a little stressed out today. So we have to be extra nice to John. Look, he's dealing with a lot, guys. Tomorrow is a huge game because it's the Boston
For the wrong
Bruins
reasons.
hosting the Dallas Stars. I would imagine in a couple weeks when the Bruins come to Dallas, it's going to be the same thing. He's going to be very on edge, so we just have to be nice. By the way, here previously is what happened on the DLS Dallas Stars show. Oh, countdown. We're not even doing that. Let's get bad. Here we are now.
Shocking.
Now we can do this. We're all kind of discombobulated again.
Late night.
You want to spell that for Luds?
Discombobulated?
Yeah, he knows that word. He's lived the life of discombobulated. Here's what happened previously on the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast.
Right now, they couldn't be further from in sync, right? They're Backstreet Boys out there. And they, thank you. I know. Thank you.
Is you have to put the will before the skill right now. Joe Pavelski.
I love driving standard transmission. Those are fun.
Same here.
Yeah.
Old school.
I don't know how to.
Grind them.
I still
during the war.
occasionally go to hit the clutch with my left foot, and there's nothing there.
Let me tell you about the
During
war,
the Great
children.
War, when I
By
used
the
to
way,
use
I
my
wanted
clutch.
Who's Perf?
Perf is
Perf?
Kat's
Gotcha.
Kat's fiance.
Who's perf? Says Luds.
Is John allowed to wear anything Bruins on Thursday?
He will be wearing it whether we allow it or not.
Yeah.
Well, no, we can do stuff
You
to
really
him
can't
if
stop
he
me.
wears it.
You can
Okay.
what me?
We could do stuff to you,
Like what?
like throw you out the window or like
What? We're now committing a murder?
vacuum your backpack. You know, the classic move.
It is Wednesday, October 23rd, as we are here in our lounge studios, the DLS Dallas Stars Podcast. How about that? The first thing that comes to Sam's mind is something inappropriate, so he doesn't say it. So then he says, we could throw you out the window. We're on the 4th floor of our building, which is, by the way, the Coffee Roasters building here in downtown Dallas. As we welcome in Sean, we can hear him giggling already because he can't believe the violent tendencies of one Sam Nessler, who one day back from the IR is ready to murder our producer already. And, of course, Craig Ludwig, who still isn't sure whether or not we're live or not, and he's afraid that anything he says will be used against him in a court of law. Hi, Sean.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to Wednesday. Did you know you were getting into this fired up bee's nest?
I am just sweating right now.
Well, maybe you shouldn't accuse or threaten premeditated murder on the air. The DA does not take kindly to that.
Maybe it's 'cause I'm wearing
Sean,
pants.
Don't you love it when they say, hi, Sean, and then they just keep on talking and don't even let you get in?
But this is where we just need a second screen, Luds, where just you and I can talk on the side.
We can do that. Hey, John, put Luds on the ISO for a second, if you would, please.
Why?
There we
Why-
go. There you go. Sean and Luds, you guys talk. Go ahead.
Sean, I love your articles. I can't wait to hear your 2 cents today because I know it's going to mean something and it's going to have a purpose behind it, unlike other people in this program, including
Well,
me.
the question is, I don't know how long do you give Sam a little bit of leeway from coming back from illness before you hold him accountable for preempted murder?
Thank you.
I mean, our boss is right in his
Little
office.
runway here, boys. Just a little runway.
So, yeah, I don't even want to get into it. Some of the things that goes on in his brain is really something. And he's sweating. You should have gone shorts.
You told me to wear pants
I
because we're in the
didn't
lounge
tell
and
you.
you
I
didn't
said
like the
we're-
crotch shot. I'm wearing
No,
pants.
no. Time
and
out.
socks and shoes, everybody.
I actually don't think it's as bad to wear shorts in the lounge, but other people, including our second guest, Daryl Ray, said there was a lot of man-spreading on the show when we were in the lounge.
Did he?
He did. He talked about it. I think he was at practice the next day. Talked about us with the shorts. You had a pair of very small shorts that rode up, and so
Yeah,
you
that
were
was
showing
bad.
a lot of leg.
That was bad.
I don't think it's that bad. It's like 90 degrees in October, October 23rd. All right. Should we get to the show or should we just keep talking about random nonsense?
Let's talk about hockey.
All right. What did that say, John? What was that? Best Stars Podcast on YouTube, Major Stick Taps. Is this the only Stars Podcast on YouTube?
If our first 5 minutes got Best Stars Podcast on YouTube, then
Thank you, Cam.
thank you very much.
All right. Well, look, the hot topic of the day is how we're going to lead, which is the Stars power play. By the way, Sean, I'm not just repping the team. I'm also watching the game, but I should probably turn it off because I'm not going to pay attention. So
I believe that.
The power play is the big storyline because it hasn't been good. And once again, last night, it failed to do anything against a team that was ranked in the bottom third of the league, Buffalo, in penalty kill. So we'll start with Sean, and I'm actually going to let him talk, at least for a minute. You did a film room breakdown. I would highly encourage you to go on to alldls.com and check it out. But can you give us your Cliff's Notes version?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things about the Stars power play right now is it's awful, which is obvious. But it's, to me, it comes down to really two things. And one is it's completely predictable. I went through and painstakingly watched every single power play so far this season. And it's hard to find a power play where they didn't basically, every single one, it's the same entry attempt. You have a forward who basically comes in along about half along the right side and then tries to lead that little backhand pass to basically Jason Robertson or whoever's on the flank at the time. And other teams, I mean, if I can pull it in video, and I'm not that smart, right? Like if I can pull it in video, you've got people who are NHL opponents and coaches who have gone through all of this and know exactly what they're going to do. So other teams, like we saw last night with Buffalo, you just sit back and like, okay, that's what they're going to do. And then we just go into our bunker down and then it's fine. And so way too predictable. And then the other thing just about they're not battling, right? Every single time you're on the power play, if as long as my math is still right here, I believe that means you have one more player, which means for a loose puck battle, every single battle, you should be able to at least even or outnumber the other team. And too many times they're just getting outnumbered. They're taking bad routes to pucks, and the other team is just simply outworking them, even when they have the extra guy. And those are things that it's a bit on as a coach. You got to sit down and talk about it. But to me, it's really a player thing. Like, okay, put some work in, because the second one is easier to fix. The second one is just digging in. The first one we can talk about, and the first one, the entry being too predictable. That becomes a little bit more, okay, how to coach and player on both. But from a player perspective, you just got to put some heart into. Basically, you just have to work hard. So,
yeah, I think that's the number one thing that we saw. And I talked about it a bunch during the game yesterday. There's two ways that you can approach a power play, right? You can kind of look at it as we have a power play, we have an extra guy. Let's pass it around a little bit and see if. That means when the puck is in the corner, we're sending three, and we're going to win that puck, and we're going to move it back to the point. We're going to win those battles. Sean, in your film room, you had a bunch of just like little puck just get kind of slapping at the puck. And it wasn't even getting outnumbered in some situations. It was literally just getting outworked one-on-one or one-on-two and just ending up going down the other way. So I think they just need to demand it, right? Just say we are going to score on this power play. And if we don't, we're going to at least turn momentum because we're going to control the puck for 90 seconds of it and put pressure on the other team. And I just don't see that.
Luddy, you said something to me right before we started the show about the first thought of the Stars power play right now.
Yeah, when you look at them, they're a pass-first power play, and they look to make plays. Again, there was a coach that played for Detroit and got in some hot water here a long time ago, but his line was will before skill, and they've kind of forgot. I think they've forgotten what gave them the success to get started, and I think they're forcing passes. They're making passes into traffic where even if the player that gets it, there's somebody right there. And I agree with Sean. Like I went over it again this morning. Like I don't know how many times going back and forth. There's one clip where Stankhoven is getting I believe it was Stank, was on the wall, and you've got Duchesne and Wyatt. Wyatt was in the bumper position. Duchesne was down by the goal line. And when Stankoven gets it on the wall, they back away from him. They back further away into the slot. Duchesne backs further down. They're really gravitating to where the open ice is. And sometimes you have to do just the opposite. And what it does is it allows a one-on-one to occur. You guys were talking about outnumbering people. They don't bring numbers to the party. They say, get it to me over here. And then it's easy to kill. I mean, because you're creating, you're self-inflicting one-on-ones all over the ice versus what you guys are talking about, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s. Get the puck back and then start moving. The other thing is, even with Stankoven on one of them, you have to work hard. When a guy like Thomas Harley gets it on the right side of the ice and he starts walking the blue line, Stankoven can't just stay in that spot by the half wall. He's got to work hard to get up higher closer to the blue line. Because if he doesn't, that forward or that defenseman that's on that half wall side, it's easy for him to cover him. But the further he goes up the wall, that forward that's trying to kill that penalty doesn't want to go up that high. So you create your own space up there. Again, it's just going to keep coming back to the word work.
You know what's not helping either is something that kind of surprised me. And we've seen that the Stars haven't been as good on faceoffs to start the season. They're actually 22nd in the NHL as of today at 48%. They've been the best faceoff team over the last 9 seasons at 53.6%. 9 years, almost 10 years of being the best in the league, and by a pretty hefty margin. That is not going to help, obviously, when you're not winning the faceoffs, especially in the power play. You're not controlling it, and you're starting by sending it down.
Do you guys happen to know that Mark Stein is wearing a Buffalo Sabres shirt?
I don't want to disrupt the show.
But
They made me come over here. I come over here with total respect for what you guys are doing. Don't let them try to twist this into a drama. This shirt, I don't know how it ended up on me today.
So you're not a fan of the Sabres? Of course you are.
Actually, this is a nice time. This is what I should have been doing. My team's playing in the Champions League as well. I should have been watching.
I couldn't help myself. I'm like half paying attention now.
well, I love the shirt. It looks like you picked it up on the street on the way here. Was it laying in the gutter?
It's only the side. They can't see it. We're all good.
It's it just felt right today. That's all I can say. It just felt right.
So
You guys go back to work.
Sorry, I was getting yelled at by Bobby. Did you guys mention 1999 already?
We'll make sure you come back in here with that
No
same
goal.
shirt on the next
No
time Dallas
goal.
plays Buffalo.
Oh man.
Whew.
Luds should have just worn his ring today.
I was already sweating. Now I'm definitely sweating.
Luds should have worn his ring today, and he could have just ended all conversations right there.
It would have been great if you happened to wear.
You
where
wear
is
that?
your Stanley
Yeah,
Cup
you
ring
wear that
right
ever?
That one of them I don't know where it is.
now? That one I don't
You
know.
mean
where
that
it
mean that one that wasn't supposed to be? Is that the one? You're talking about that one against Buffalo? The one that wasn't
is. Oh, that's
supposed
right.
to be?
He has two.
I think if anyone
Yeah,
asks
I wasn't
you,
sure which
about
one
a
you're.
flex?
if
I
anyone
wasn't sure
asks
which
you
one
where
you're
your
talking
ring is
about.
and you say which
Which
one,
Stanley Cup ring? I can't flex any more than that.
oh
Wow.
boy.
I knew something was going on because all of a sudden the Mavs show started to instead of disperse, they came over toward the lounge, and I could just tell that something was afoot.
Be careful you guys don't bump into something on the way out the door and get hurt. Be on the IR for 10 days.
What do we have? The player maintenance days?
Yeah, whatever they call it. I don't know.
Oh man, we're really Sean. Sorry, you're being remote, so you missed all of that, even though you saw it. But
What
it was,
chaos that was.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
wow!
you like it,
wow.
eh?
Wow.
I was a little early, but I try. What I don't know when we started this show.
When we started the
Yeah.
show,
Should we
So far, I'm trying to figure out why we're doing the show. We're talking about we got a soccer game on here.
Are we
We got
doing
some
an-
clown walking on here with a
I
Buffalo
would just
shirt
like to
on.
point out that this is not affecting my ability to focus on the show, but having Mark Stein come in with a Buffalo Sabres t-shirt definitely did derail our conversation.
It would be nice if that rollback cooler was full. Sean, can you tell us more? Can you tell us more about the game? Can you give us?
Sean, I'm just
Can
trying
you
to figure
get
out
this
if-
back on the
Are we
Are we
rails?
supposed to go to a break? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
No, not yet.
We start
Time.
early.
No.
We're not going to a break.
Wanna
We're
tell you
already
guys about
broke.
rollback.
We're broke. You want to talk about rollback?
Yeah,
It's
no.
empty.
No. That's okay.
Let's
Coming
just-
up next,
let's just
on
say the Roback
DLLS
cooler
Dallas
is
Stars
empty.
Podcast,
That's
we
not
will
the cooler.
talk about a former
we were
Stars
the best
coach
hockey show on
getting
till
a
now.
bit
We
angry
were.
with his current
They're gonna
captain,
pull back
who
our
will
ads.
happen
Pull
to be
back.
playing tomorrow in Boston. That's next.
Now I can talk about Roback.
Please.
Okay. I'm excited about it. Roback Activewear. Quite simple. The best fit and the best feel. Quality of gear just speaks for itself. They have performance polos, performance hoodies, and the everyday shorts, which I got to get a pair because they sound incredibly comfortable. They're versatile. You can wear them with a polo. You can wear them untucked. You can wear them with a t-shirt. They're perfect for any event. Anytime you're on the move, they have elastic waistband, so it keeps it comfortable, but they look clean. They look professional enough to wear on this podcast, and a nice stretch fabric for a clean look no matter the occasion. They have performance polos, performance hoodies, all of the stuff you need for heat, for a day on the move, or for whatever you have coming in your day. So use the code DLLS Stars 20 on roback.com. That's RHOBACK.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's 20% off polos, hoodies, shorts with the code DLLS Stars 20. Make sure to check them out, and they'll have you ready for whatever activity you have.
Let's talk about Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they do have copycats, but Empire can't be beaten on quality, service, speed. So competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. Our virtual floor designer is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy, just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. They pride themselves on their convenient shop-at-home service. They help customers shop for floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what their new floors will look like in their home's lighting and decor so they can make an informed decision. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DLLS for details. All right, let's talk a little bit more about yelling. Not yelling at Mark Stein, who, by the way, really nice to have the Mavs guys come over and try to give us a hard time, but more about the Boston Bruins, the opponent for tomorrow's second game of this 2-game Eastern Conference trip at TD Garden. And there's some issues with the Bees this year. There always are, but this clip shows what the most recent talking point is in Beantown.
Slam to the stop. They score. Yamamoto's right there. Play looked a little funny coming across the blue line. See if the Bruins took a look at it.
Jim Montgomery is angrily barking on the bench after a goal against at Brad Marchand, and then reaches out and gives him a little shoulder grab or little push or something. There's not much there. There is a discussion about today's NHL about making contact between coaches and players. I'm sure that when Luddy played, that kind of a touch would even go unnoticed. But it's more about look, we talked about the David Pastrnak getting called out in the playoffs against the Panthers last year. We also saw and found out that Monty told Pasta, I'm going to call you out beforehand. So I'm sending a message, but I also don't want you to get blindsided. This is different because this is in the game. This is in front of everybody. This is not hey, we're going to give up a goal and I'm going to yell at you. This is a heat of the moment kind of spur the battle kind of thing.
Yeah, and it happens. It's part of the game. Coaches get upset, players get upset, and when it's Brad Marchand, first off, that's not going to bother him. And Monty, it happened. They talked probably after the game, but that's his guy. That's the guy when you go to war and there's that one guy that carries the flag right into the heart of the battle. That's their captain. And he expects more from him. And the clip doesn't really show what actually happened, but he was in the offensive zone and he tries to pull a move that actually was in between two and a half, Utah players. And he turns the puck over and it goes down to the other end of the rink. And as a leader on the team, you're supposed to be setting the examples the right way. Now, in Marchand's defense, he does the right play 90% of the times. And so he tried. And again, it's from a player that's trying to make something happen. And sometimes it happens, and it's not the exact way they want to play. Monty's probably on edge. He wants to, you look at the record that he's had, and he's had a couple great years. Unfortunately, they didn't end the way that he wanted them to. And is he got a contract coming up too, Montgomery? I think he's in a contract year. Our producer should know that right off the hop. Well, I know Marsh is, and I think Monty is too. But anyway, so and again, that players are going to stick around before coaches. But regardless, this is just a matter of a head coach knowing what the right play was supposed to be and expects better from his captain, and you move on. And and as a matter of fact, the goal that was scored, it was called back. So at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. But the point is that it wasn't the right play at that particular moment. It was in the offensive zone. It's 100 and some feet away from your own net. There should have been a way to get back and cover it up. But at the end of the day, the goal was called off, and they're going to be fine.
So he is in a contract year. This is his last
Monty?
year of a 3-year contract from the summer of 22. But my question to you, Luds, and you kind of answered it, but I'm just curious because it's the day of social media, the way things are today, everything is so blown out of proportion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is something like this good or bad for the game? Stuff like this getting blasted out on social. I mean, it's not just people it's not just some random fans that are posting, wow, look at this. It's people are talking about it on podcasts. We're talking about it. Like it becomes so big, but then once you sit down and you talk to someone, especially former players, things like that, they're like, yeah, it's nothing. It was either planned, like all the Swayman stuff, or it was something that just happened. And they don't even think twice about it.
They don't think twice about it. I think if this was the first year of social media where things get out there, but they're used to it now. They know that every little thing that goes on is going to be out there one way or another, and they actually have meetings about it. In when you get to your opening days, there's going to become a point where you're going to have meetings with people that are in social media telling you about all of these things that are going to happen, to be careful in this, be careful in that, this isn't new. They've been doing this for a long time. It's new to me. I thought it just came out a month or so. But the point is that they know this. It's not that big a deal. It's just two guys that want to win, and one was trying a little bit too hard. The coach, that's my guy. You should know. Basically what he's saying is you should know better. They've got some players on that team that are 20 years old, 24 years old, 25 years old. I want my captain to be showing them the right way to go. And I'm trying to sell that we have to take some of the skill out of our game, and we could talk about that right here about this team. But it's the way that you want to play. And the guys that are in your leadership group have to show the way to the rest of the group. And that's what that's about.
By the way, Jim Montgomery is in contract talks with the Bruins for an extension. It was Don Sweeney, the GM, said that back in September, but they also don't have a deal. So you can be in talks for an extension, but until that's in place, you're still – I don't know if it's fair to call him a lame duck coach, Sean, because they seem to want him in place. But
he's
if things took a turn, that could always derail the negotiations, right?
He's a lame duck coach. It's fair to call it. He's in a contract year. He's been outcoached in the playoffs every single time he's been in the playoffs, he's been outcoached. What is the job of the Boston Bruins? The Boston Bruins don't care about the regular season. They want to win the Stanley Cup. He was outcoached. His 1 year in the playoffs here, he got completely outcoached by Craig Berube in that St. Louis series. Yes, they say they're working on a contract, but this is a guy who year after year has been outcoached in the playoff series. Was a really great college hockey coach. Give him credit for all of that. And he's won with really good teams in the regular season. But has he ever he's never gone into a series and won his battle, because it is the coach's job to win a battle in the playoffs. It is your job to outcoach the other guy. And Jim Montgomery has lost every single coaching battle he's ever had in the playoffs. So
can you elaborate on that though, from people that maybe don't know what you mean by when he's been outcoached? What I don't know if you have at the tip of your tongue the specifics, but when you say he's been outcoached, what does that mean?
For starters, he panics. That's one thing too, right? Like let's look at the guy who won the Stanley Cup last year in Paul Maurice. Maurice is a guy who, yes, he gets fired up, he gets all that, he gets things going. But Paul Maurice has the pulse of his bench. Paul Maurice understands where the game is. He understands how not to add a quote unquote distraction by his attitude on the bench or the way he reacts to things. Jim Montgomery, you watch him in games, you watch him in the playoffs, you've seen him get But that's who Jim Montgomery is. Like we were talking about coaches the other day in our offline texting group, where I personally believe coaches are who they are. I think they can evolve a little bit. Jim Montgomery is someone who wants to push buttons of his best players, whether it's like, yes, the whole famous comments from Jim Lights to me. Those started because Jim Montgomery Jim Montgomery basically co-signed them. Jim Montgomery was the guy who was ripping into the team at a morning skate before they played the Nashville Predators. He's the one who said, I can't break the culture of mediocrity. Jim Montgomery is a guy who is very passionate and wears his emotions on his sleeve and all that stuff, and it works for college hockey. I don't know the answer to this. I just don't know if Jim Montgomery is anything more than a very good college hockey coach. It works in college hockey, and actually in today's college hockey, who knows as things change with more player empowerment there, but it worked in college hockey where you're bringing in guys who you recruited and your message never gets stale because it's over and over again. But like, yes, Lud said that it's two intense guys going at each other, but Brad Marchand doesn't want to get yelled at all the time. Players don't want to get yelled at all the time. I mean, I think Jim Montgomery is a great story. What he overcame publicly and I think that should be used as thing. But at the same time, we also have to call a spade a spade. Call a spade a spade. When it comes to the actual profession of coaching, honestly, I could put Sam behind the bench in Boston, and they would have had the best record in the league 2 years ago. Sam could have done the exact same job and gotten out-coached by Paul Maurice in the first round.
I'll tell you what good coaches do. They make adjustments, and not just during the regular season, because that's kind of it stays the same. But when you get into the playoffs and you play the other team every other night for 14 days, you have to make adjustments. You have to change. You may have to take somebody off a line that you've had that line together all year long, because I'll just use an example, because Robo can't play against Draisaitl. I'm not saying that he can. I'm just saying, but Bork can, because of whatever reason is. You have to make that adjustment, because we need to shut that guy down, take him out of the equation, and you have to recognize it before you're tied in games or before you're down, and you have to have the balls to do it. And you have to have the ears of the players understanding that it's for the best of what we're trying to accomplish. So, but you have to be able to recognize that. You have to see when one of their systems isn't working well against the way that you are. Let's just say you're playing man on man and they're taking advantage of us. And for me, that starts during the regular season too. So you don't just say, this is who we are. And we play as a swarm. We play a man on man. We play a combination of both. You have to be able to adjust, because the most important time of the year is starting in April sometime. And so you use that time during the course of the year to say, you know what, we're gonna try this tonight. You know, again, I understand making sure that you have something that works. That's great. But there's other people on the other side that have a lot of people at the end of the year. They bring all of their scouts in that have been watching different games, and pro scouts that are watching, and they've pinpointed little things and little tendencies that Edmonton does. And that's what good teams do. And if you have the right kind of people, they're going to say, I watch how Edmonton plays is when Dallas exits the zone, they bring their offside defenseman. He's standing over on the other side of the ice, ready for that. And they play a certain way. And you have to be able to adjust to that and say, you know what? Instead of coming here, we're throwing the puck to that side of the ice, and we're going to create a race over there. And that race is going to be against a forward, not a defenseman, because they're both on the other side of the ice. So just those little kind of things.
Boy, I have so many things I want to follow up. We don't have a lot of time, but just quickly, when Sean notices and says he believes that Jim Montgomery has been outcoached frequently in the playoffs with Dallas and with Boston, that's Sean seeing it, member of a media. Players would probably see that on the team. If you're a player on a team and you don't have the confidence that your coach is going to make the right adjustments, well, how does that affect the room?
Hey, Sean, here's my opinion. His first year, he had some guys there that he just kind of let run. Bergeron was there, he taking care of things. And I think that maybe what Monty did that first year is just said, listen, I got the guys here that could be head coaches in the NHL right now, and you kind of let them go ahead and run it the way they've been running it. And maybe the first year with that group, when he got into that point, maybe he was a little leery of trying to change some things and thought that these players have been around a long time. They understand winning. They've already won a cup. Some of these guys, they can probably change on their own. Maybe he should have stepped in Game 6 or Game 5 or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that is a fair thing to account for. I also think it's I look at the way, and like Luds went to adjustments. One of my favorite things about playoff hockey is I love watching the chess match. I love watching because this sport is played so so single or team focused for 82 games, where because coaches just don't have time to prep for other teams. Like it's just you play tonight, you got another team Saturday, there's back-to-backs, right? Like the whole I love the chess match of playoff hockey, and I just when you watch Boston play. And when you watch Boston play in the playoffs the past couple of years, what they are in Game 1 is the same thing they are in Game 5 and 6. And in my view, and they're not winning those series. If you're winning those series and the other person's not adjust, you know what? That's fine. You just keep doing what it is until they force you to adjust. But when I see the same team in Game 1 that I see in Game 4 and 5 with Boston, like I have, that to me reflects back to you're not assessing on the fly that this is what you need to do. And like it goes back to that's what I thought would happen in Dallas in the St. Louis series, where I thought Craig Berube in that series, and the Blues eventually won the Stanley Cup. Craig Berube adjusted his team. I mean, that little the play that Robert Thomas scored in Game 7 against it was Pat Maroon scored, but Robert Thomas effectively set up the play on the faceoff. That's a play that they effectively brought in, I believe, after Game 4 or 5, because they realized that that the Stars were leaving the space for Thomas to go to. And the Bruins brought that play back in Game 4 or 5 of that series, and the Stars never picked up for it. And then that's what wins the series. That, to me, is what I talk about when I just see Jim Montgomery getting out-coached in playoff series. And that's why when Owens is like, I don't know if we can call him a lame duck head coach. I can call him a lame duck head coach, because if he loses in the first round of the playoffs this year, if you're the Bruins, you're going to be like, okay, this guy has had a lot of regular season success, but the job of the Boston Bruins head coach, the expectation of this franchise, it's not regular season success.
You know, I'll give you one, like back when we won the Cup in '99, we were playing Colorado, and that's when we had to go in there and win because we were down. But the rounds previous to that, Mo's line, with Yuri Lettinen on it, was basically going head-to-head with the other team's top line. And it wasn't working in Colorado going up against Forsberg. Carbo walked in to Hitch's office and said, put me against him. And credit to Hitch, because he could be kind of hard. He did. And yes, Eddie made a big difference in that series, but Carbo shut him down. Or I don't think he really shut him down, but kind of put a period on what he was doing that was affecting us. So that's why I bring up guys like Bergeron, that can do it. But you have to have a coach that can listen too.
Let's keep this going because we're bringing on our all-city national NHL host of our NHL podcast. Pete Blackburn is going to join us next here on the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast.
Sleeper is the best fantasy platform out there, period. But you don't just have to put your ball knowledge to the test. You can also put your puck knowledge to the test. Now with the NHL's new picks, tonight the Washington Capitals will be playing in Philly against the Flyers on TNT. Philly is currently allowing 4.17 goals per game, 30th in the league. So I'm taking Alex Ovechkin to score a goal. If you agree, you could win 2.18 times your money. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Sleeper also keeps you in the loop, with instant alerts, breaking news, injuries, so you never have any guesswork when it comes to your picks, fantasy lineups, or anything else like that. If you think you have what it takes, download the Sleeper app today and use the code DLLS Stars to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Let's talk about game time. Look, we love going to sporting events. Maybe even want to hit the road and go see the Stars play the Bruins in Boston at TD Garden. Well, you need Game Time to get the best seats available. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier, but not just sports. We're talking concerts, theater, comedy shows, you name it. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It will curate deals. You'll find the best seats that way. You get seat views. One of the things I really like is being able to look at what the view from that seat is before you pull the trigger and buy those tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time by downloading the Game Time app, creating an account, and using the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Sam, what time is it?
Game time. Who?
All right. It's time for us to welcome in the host of the not DLLS, the All City National Hockey Podcast. What chaos. There he is, Pete Blackburn, joining us on the show. Pete, thanks for coming on and gracing the little Dallas Hockey Podcast with your presence.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm excited that you guys exist, because when the Stars were in the playoffs last year and we were getting guests on for basically every team, we were like, who covers the Stars and who can we talk to? So glad you guys are here. Glad you guys are part of the network, and happy to be here.
Well, we were just talking about the Brad Marchand versus Jim Montgomery discussion, and obviously that's been circulating throughout Boston and media and now nationally because of I called it a discussion, the very angry, heated yelling that they did on the bench. But Sean brought up an interesting thing, and by the way, this is the first time we've had 5 guys on the show at one time, so it's chaotic, but we'll do our best. And I really agree with Sean.
Good for the brand.
He feels that Jim Montgomery's been outcoached in the playoffs, starting with Dallas versus St. Louis, which was back in 2019. Do you feel that was a similar situation with the Bruins?
Yeah, I think that he's not great at making adjustments, and I heard a little piece of that conversation. We've seen him be outcoached in terms of guys on the other bench making adjustments. Paul Maurice last year, I think, coached circles around Jim Montgomery in that series, and I don't know if you guys caught the Amazon series, but I thought one of the most interesting parts of that Amazon series when they were following the Panthers around was getting the sound bites from Paul Maurice on the bench. And there was a point during one of those games where he was saying, you guys are so preoccupied with trying to make plays. F the plays. Go out there and grind them into dust. And like, that is the style of play that, and like in a vacuum, in regular season play, you're probably not going to hear that much, but during the playoffs, that's what leads to winning hockey. And then over the course of a 7-game series, you grind a team down. And I think the Bruins have had a hard time keeping up with that in terms of, fighting and staying consistent and not being ground down over the course of a 7-game series. So yeah, I think that there are points that we've seen Jim Montgomery fail to make adjustments. And I think that, early on this season, the early returns for the Bruins and what Jim Montgomery's gotten out of that group have not been great. And one of the big consistencies for the Bruins over the past however many years is their leadership. And when you have the head coach and the captain going at each other on the bench during some early season struggles, it throws up some red flags. And I'm not saying it's the end of the world here, but it is a little concerning, and it does throw up an antenna.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, it feels like Montgomery has had drama around him since he came into the league, right? He came in with this great new young coach. He's won national championships with Denver, and then obviously the bad stuff that happened with Dallas. But it just feels like there's constantly been drama around that. Pete, I'm curious your thought. We were just talking about social media and hypersensitivity nowadays and all these other things. How much of that do you need to just wash away as a player, coach? Elias Pettersson is a perfect example of someone who reads maybe a little bit too much into that. How much of that, if you're a player or coach, do you need to just kind of push away and not look into to get too distracted during seasons?
I think most of it. I think, if you're being distracted by any of the dynamics that go on, whether it's within the locker room, whether it's on the bench, like, there are going to be hard times over the course of an 82-game season. Like, getting yelled at by your coach or having a player yell at a coach is not a problem in of itself if it happens a few times here and there. If it continuously pops up over and over and over again, that's when it sort of erodes the relationship between the players, between the coaches, and things like that. Like, Bruce Cassidy is a very good coach. He won a Stanley Cup a year after he left Boston, and his numbers were good in Boston in terms of win-loss record, but he was pushed out the door because the players grew sick of playing for him, grew sick of like how hard he was on them, and how often they butted heads. And that's why Jim Montgomery was brought in, because he's a little bit easier on his players. He was a players coach. I think that we've seen over the past 2 seasons, like he's been like not easy on these guys. He doesn't let them coast by, but he's more of a player's coach than Bruce Cassidy was. And I think that it led to a real change of tempo and changes like success that they saw over the past few seasons, during the regular season at least. But now you're seeing some heads being butted on the bench, and the results haven't been there in the early season. So it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. I don't think the Bruins are as bad as they've looked to start this season. But you never know. Like, if there's something under the surface there, it could get ugly.
One more for me. If the Bruins either lose in the first round or don't make the playoffs this season, is Jim Montgomery the coach next October?
Probably not. I think that this team on paper is too good to either miss the playoffs, first of all, or I just think that there's a real distaste for the early exits that the Bruins have had. And you look at this team right now, it's not really built for like longevity. They're trying to keep this window open with like Brad Marchand and some of the guys they have here. And like, you can't waste away years of Pastrnak and McAvoy. So like, there's a sense of urgency. And if it doesn't happen and they don't take a step forward this year, I think you're probably looking at a new coach next season.
Hey, Pete, we've it's fitting that with Dallas Boston this week, because obviously Jake Oettinger gets basically the Swayman money after that deal gets done. I think you've actually had some of the best conversations anyone's ever had with his former goalie partner on your guys' show with Linus Ullmark before. From your view of where things go with Swayman this season, we've talked a lot about Oettinger and what he has to do, but what does Swayman have to do this year to live up to all of the actions that played out, you think, for both, whether it's the fan base, whether it's the proper, what's your view of that?
He kind of has to be bulletproof in a lot of ways. Like, that's not going to be forgotten, how ugly the negotiations were this summer, and how they carried into over this year. Like, I don't think that he's going to be like overly criticized, and I don't know where a lot of fans land versus management versus player in that situation, but we've seen for like a decade plus at this point, the first person that Bruins fans typically go for in terms of a target is the goaltender, even if the goaltender is very good. Like, Tuukka Rask was really, really good for the Bruins for a lot of years and was really good for most of his time in the playoffs. But anytime the Bruins lost, no matter when it was usually Tuukka Rask's fault in the eye of the public. And I think part of that is steered by the media. And I think that part of it is just, it's an easy thing to do, is blame the goaltender because he's the last line of defense in hockey. So with what happened with Jeremy Swayman this summer and kind of where this team is positioned right now, like, he has to be the best player on this team, number one, for them to be considered a true contender anyway, but also for his own protection. He's got to be the best player basically every night.
And then one more, because for me on that, just because as we're talking on these two guys, and we had a whole show, we did a whole emergency, we scheduled a whole emergency podcast when they signed Oettinger and got all of that done. For someone who looks at it and not with a Stars lens every day, you see that deal for Oettinger. What was your initial reaction to that?
Well, I think the easy thing to do is say, would you rather have Jeremy Swayman? Would you rather have Jake Oettinger? And I think they're both very, very good goaltenders that I would be quite happy if they were on my team for the next 8+ years. Based off of what I've seen in terms of consistency over the past few years, I think that I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with Jeremy Swayman. But it's real close. And I think Ottinger is a dog, and we've seen it from him at many points where he can be a guy that is a true game changer. I just don't think it's there as consistently as it's been with Jeremy Swayman for the most part. But then again, Jeremy Swayman hasn't had the workload that Jake Ottinger's had in terms of being like the 1A over the past few years. So if that changes anything for Swayman, maybe. I just don't think it does. I think, it's a good situation for both teams. It's a good situation for both players. I think I might give the slight edge to Jeremy Swayman, but I'm a biased take here anyway. So I'm sure that a lot of Stars fans will point the finger and just say, yeah, of course you'd say that.
Hey, Pete, since we're talking about your goaltender there, I'm curious about your thoughts on how the negotiations went, in particular when Cam Neely came out with his comment.
I think it could have been handled much better on both sides. I think that there was growing frustrations from Jeremy Swayman's camp. I think that had to do with the disrespect that he perceived going on, even from the year prior. And then I think that Cam Neely got sick of it being a chess match with the media and how public some of those comments were from Swayman and from Spit and Chicklets and other media sources. I think he just got sick of having to play that game, and he brought his final chips to the table in that press conference. And it all ended up working out fine. I just think that it could have been handled a little bit more maturely on both sides. Like, Swayman took things very personally, probably a little bit too personally, and I think that the Bruins ended up pulling the unprofessional card by bringing it to the media when they got sick of it. But it was real ugly, and at the end, I'll tell you what, being honest, I was very nervous that it was going to be at a point where it was irreparable.
So, as you can tell, Pete, our producer John likes to bring up on the tag at the lower third, Short King. Luddy started having us chirp Sam a lot for the same vertical deficiencies, if you will. And we have a player on the Stars that is really dazzling without being the biggest player on the ice. And I'm going to talk about Logan Stankoven. And so I was told that we should just chirp you and Logan as asking, when you talk to a guy like Stankoven, do you enjoy being eye to eye, which seems like really low-hanging fruit, which again was an unnecessary joke there. But we are just, I don't want to say bedazzled by Stankoven, but impressed by the fact that he's so consistent, that he comes and plays the same way every single night, which is really a challenge in the NHL, right? A lot of really good AHL players never make it to the NHL consistently because they can't bring not their A game every night, but their B or B minus game. They drop down into that C or D range. And Stankoven just doesn't do that. We all think in Dallas, because we're a bunch of ridiculous homers, that he's going to win the Calder Trophy this year. From your standpoint, not just from a height, but actually the player, what do you think of Logan?
Yeah, I love him. I love him. He's my Calder pick. I locked that in before the season, and there's a few reasons for it. I don't think that he's necessarily the most talented player of this Calder class, but number one, he has a little bit more experience than a lot of these guys, where he came in and he got playoff hockey too, which I think is really, really important, and he's sort of ingrained himself into that Stars culture. They also have a really good team there, and I think he has an opportunity to stack points, as we've seen in the early returns here. But the thing that really, really impressed me, beyond, like, I'll always root for the short guys. It's always going to happen. But the thing that really impressed me about him when he came in last year is that even in his first two games, he was getting to the dirty areas and he was setting up shop in front of the net. So for a guy who's like 5'7", 5'8", whatever he's listed at, he's probably fudging the numbers there a little bit if we're being honest, but like, he's not afraid. He doesn't look at it at his size as like a true deficiency. It doesn't keep him from those areas where he needs to go to find success. He's also really strong on the puck in those tight areas and in down low. And so, like, he may be short, but he doesn't exactly play like it all the time. So I think with all of those things being combined, he's really well positioned this year to make an immediate impact in his Calder season, which doesn't truly feel like his rookie season.
Sean, I'm going to let you take this over, but just briefly, the NHL show that Pete hosts, which is the All-City National What Chaos show, has a new line of merch that actually has a connection with Sean. So you know more, so you take it away.
Oh, with my boys Nick and Matt up in Buffalo at Just Ishin', yeah. Actually, quick side note, Pete, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I Pete and I. But Pete, I was a live viewer of Pete and Cam Robinson's side by side podcast at the draft in Vegas, which was maybe the greatest height difference in podcasting history at that point. Now, for people who don't know, Cam is like 6'7", and right now we're planning on stuff for having him stand next to prospects to find out if they're actually tall or not.
I did that at the draft as well. The Bruins drafted Dean Letourneau, famously very tall, and he confirmed standing next to me. By the way, the Cam Robinson thing has since been dated because we did a podcast with Nikita Zadorov in preseason, and the pictures that came out of me sitting next to him were ridiculous. He is a gigantic human.
I guess this is an ad read, but check out the pretty cool collaboration between the guys over at Dishin' and What Chaos. Nick and Matt have been. I think a lot of times we use the word, and Pete, you can agree or disagree with me, but a lot of times we use like the mover and shakers word too loosely. But like what Nick and Matt do actually is they actually get where this world is going and everything. So they've got some pretty cool stuff that they put together with you guys, and I think you guys got the. Yeah, some pretty cool stuff, and then did you get the model though? Because like that was the best part. Like that's
I don't know, but the one with the chains is for me.
Yeah, it's let's.
Yeah, I know, but I know, but Pete, like this is just the shirt, the actual modeling by
Gene.
actually having the people, by Gene Principe do it. It was like that was the real kicker for me. So I'm disappointed that John didn't pull that one. So, but oh well, we can't win them all.
Yeah, just check out our lookbook. We have a lookbook, Gene Principe. All the stuff came out great, so I'm really happy with it. And Nick and Matt and Derek, who designed this line, they're incredible dudes, and they definitely have an eye and a feel for where things are going and trending. So very, very happy with the way things turned out. With
Pete, real quick, go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say I really hurt Nick's wallet because I hung out with him in Cleveland this summer at a trading card show, and he had completely gotten out of it completely, and now he spends hundreds of dollars all the time on hockey cards. So that's my fault for Nick now. So
there you go.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Pete,
more important.
We've talked about the show a little bit. We talked about the new partnership. Can you just a quick summary, 1 minute or however long you want to talk about it? What is the What Chaos show, and why should people of DLS and all around the NHL listen to the show?
What Chaos is, we do the league-wide show. We like to have fun. We like to shine a little bit of personality on the game. We're weird, and we like to approach things in a weirder way, a looser way. Last night we did game reports on some of the games in the Frozen Frenzy, and we did like middle school style presentations on some of the things that we learned. Like that's just a taste of the weird crap that we do. And then probably a big staple of the show is the interviews that we have with players, in which we try to get a sense of their personality and have some fun. Logan Stankoven on the show, we had some fun with him. So if Stars fans are interested in that, they can go to our YouTube page, and all the interviews are there. So like if you're a little weird, a little down to have some fun, and you love hockey, we're the show for you.
Well, Pete, thanks so much for stopping in
Hey, by the
today.
way, I just ordered my shirt.
You ordered a shirt?
I ordered the shirt.
Which
Look
shirt?
at that.
The ones with the
Look at
chains
that.
around
The
it.
chains.
Let's go.
Wow.
I love to see
I
it.
just ordered it.
And he will wear it
Yeah.
on our show. So keep an eye out for Luddy once that gets in. Hopefully it comes in fast.
Hopefully the double X is a true double X, not like around here.
they're oversized. So
Okay, cool.
If you think they need to be,
Because everybody around here is
got you covered.
undersized.
I mean, I'm definitely undersized.
Oh,
But
I didn't. Yeah, no, I mean these guys up here on
Well, the
with.
jokes just write themselves, don't they?
I know.
Yeah.
everything's
Pete, unfortunately,
oversized.
we got to go to the last
so.
break here, but thank you so much. We
Of course.
appreciate you jumping on, and we'll see whether or not our producer is happy or miserable based on tomorrow night's result.
Sounds good. Enjoy. I hope you guys are a little miserable tomorrow.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
There he goes. Pete Blackburn,
Thanks,
the
Pete.
host of the What Chaos National All-City Hockey Show. When we return, up next, brief NHL news and notes and a rant from Sean, of course, here on the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast. We really didn't go anywhere, did we? We just have to talk about DLLS. They have a new introductory offer for new diehard signups. You can go to alldls.com and join the diehard program for just $4 a month. The access will give you exclusive content on the alldls.com website, including Sean and Sam's exclusive interviews and analysis. You can get access to the Discord, where you interact with not only like-minded fans, but also you can participate in Luddy's Damn Discord, which will be back next Thursday, which will be our Halloween show.
Oh.
By the way, shout out to new diehards who have signed up on the new offer, which I believe came out yesterday. We've got Jenny, Bryn, Sean, Barbara, Kenneth, Alistair, Hesh, Christine, Eddie, Gregory, Alex, Chris, Spencer, Blake, Bob, Roger, Aaron, Damien, and Daniel. Tweet us. If you sign up, we'll give you a shout out on the show. And as John likes to say, we will love you forever and ever. All right. Final segment here
You
on
a
the
diehard,
show.
Luds?
And we have some
I don't even know where it is.
NHL news and notes, guys.
no.
The phone just rang.
Who's did?
That literally drops my Hulk guy. Let's answer it. Hello.
Oh, one of these things.
Message from the NHL Department of Player Safety. DLLS Stars Podcast host Sean Shapiro is being placed in the sin bin following infraction, being ill-prepared for an ad read. The infraction was
Oh, I
Hold
spy
on,
it
hold on.
against
I
me.
gotta pull it up. I gotta
Come on,
pull it
Sean,
up.
the clock
Sorry.
is ticking.
Nobody
I
said
got
anything.
caught up. I got caught up. Hold on. Okay. What if I told you people would be ready for their ad reads? And if they were?
Further investigation by the league has revealed that this may in fact not
Babyface.
be Sean Shapiro, but a second human living the same life. And then, one life. This would explain how Sean has time to write for 10 different hockey outlets and still see his family. As punishment, Sean is required to project the 2025-2026 Dallas Stars forward lines. His worst nightmare.
No way. That legitimately doesn't look like Sean at all in that
The
video.
beard?
Yeah,
Yeah.
both of them.
Oh my god.
So
I didn't know we could. I didn't know. Like I thought like the statute of limitations would be over for that. Like I thought.
it's still there. Okay, so what the punishment is, he has to name next season's Stars projected lines. The absolute nightmare scenario.
All right, 20, 25, 26 Stars forward lines. All right.
Can't wait to hear like Patrick Kane on the wing.
No, okay. Here we'll do this. Fine. People want this. Let's fine. Jason Robertson, Ropa Hintz, Logan Stankoven, Marchand, Bork, Sagan, Ben Johnston, Coland, and a Blackwell, Steele, and let's see who's going to be the random guy. And they'll sign Christian Fisher for the fourth line. So that'll be. You wanted lines for next year. See, they're pointless and useless.
All right.
He's predicting a Matt Duchesne-less Dallas Stars.
He also is having
Next
Wyatt
season.
Johnson still on the third line.
Wyatt Johnson on the third line. I like
I
it.
think he would have been on the second line over Bork. I would have had Marchment, Johnston, and Sagan. But again,
Here's even more of a
Look,
worst
see,
nightmare.
this is
we
getting
should
him
debate it.
we should continue to talk about why Sean's wrong. About
Sean,
his,
here's what I don't think because
You left. You lost
Bork
and let
isn't
him.
great in that spot, and next year he's going to be
Oh
23.
my god.
This is the perfect punishment. So well done, John. All right, NHL news and notes, quick hits. Let's start with Paul Maurice. He signed a contract extension. Luddy, you're a huge fan of Paul Maurice as a coach. You love his interactions he's done with the press. But how about what he does for the actual Florida Panthers and the fact that he seems like he's been around forever? He's still only in his 50s, and he seems to have rediscovered his love of the game. Because remember, he actually was self-aware enough to step away from Winnipeg, saying, there's nothing more that I can accomplish with this group, and they need a different voice.
Or smart enough to know that, what that team was at that particular moment, knowing that there was some interest in him out there, and then he was able to basically pick a team he wanted to go to. I think when the way he talks to the media is very similar to the way that he probably talks to the players. I think he's got an open door policy. I think he explains things well. I think he knows when to lose it on the bench, because when you have that kind of a reputation, those kind of things can get your attention a little easier than somebody that's screaming all the time or doesn't at all. So I'm happy for him. I think it's an organization and a team that still has another one in them if they continue to make the right moves and things like that. So I think he's a great coach. I think he's a great ambassador for the game too.
And then they lose 5-1 to the Minnesota Wild, and he has the presence of mind with his quick wit to say, no, he goes, I'm just thankful and hopeful, I guess, that the ink dried on that thing before it got rescinded after one loss.
Well, one thing, can I add one thing? I didn't know this. I heard it this week from my former boss, Frank Saravalli from Daily Faceoff. He apparently called right after Maurice left Winnipeg. He called him, and he was sitting on a dock in Manitoba, and he said, when are you coming back? What's your plan? And he said, I don't think I am. So he was fully aware enough and understanding enough that he may step away from the game unless the right thing came. He comes back, he wins the Stanley Cup. It's just a great story.
He's smart enough to know that he needed to clear his head.
Yeah.
And find out if he really did have that love to walk away from it, which he didn't.
I talked to during the Cup final last year. Because the Florida Everblades, the ECHL team, were also in the Kelly Cup final last year, and I actually, during the Cup final, I drove across the Everglades to go watch one of those games as well, and I caught up with Jake Morris, who's Paul's son, who is is a broadcaster for Florida, for the ECHL team there. And I was curious to ask Jake, like, kind of the no BS answer. I was like, so Jake, your dad, like he said he stepped away from Winnipeg, and did you guys really believe, like from the family perspective, did you guys really believe that was it? Like this is what his life has been. Did you really believe it? And Jake said, he's like, no, like honestly, he's like, I had a feeling he would probably coach again someday. And this was what Jake said. I probably had a feeling he'd coach again someday, but I thought it would probably be 5 or 6 years away, and it would take the right job it would take the right job and the right opportunity to light that fire again for him. He said, but he's like, just that Panthers job, it really had to be the right opportunity, because we didn't think he was done. We didn't think it was quote unquote retirement, but we definitely thought that it was going to be 5 or 6 years. And then at some point somebody would come to him with the right fit. And the fact that it happened as quickly as that was the surprise to the Maurice family, having talked to his son about it last year.
The right fit, a President's Trophy winning team with Kachuk and
of course.
Barkov and all these guys. That seems like a good fit.
Well,
and
yeah,
demographically, it kind of worked out too, from Winnipeg to
Yeah,
Florida.
and someone
Habitat,
mentioned that.
huh?
Someone mentioned
Climate
that, and they were like, I hope it's not just him going down to retire in Florida and coach there. He definitely didn't do that.
And we've talked about it before, but you look at the arena in Florida at Amarant and how packed it is now. And it wasn't long ago where that was the butt of the joke around the league was, I used to love the line of it's dress as your own favorite seat night at the Florida Panthers games, because there'd be so many empty seats.
The red seat too.
Right. And now that place is understandably so. It's a good team, and they've shown out there. So that's really fun. Even for a building that's closer to Fort Lauderdale than Miami and not necessarily in the greatest spot. It was kind of the Arizona Coyotes problem of having an arena in Glendale when the population was in Tempe, Scottsdale, and Phoenix. So
but that's not even the case with Florida. That's also a bad narrative, right? Florida, there's in Broward County, right around the arena, there's a population of about 3.6 million people in Broward County, right there. Like they never.
That's what I mean. It's Fort Lauderdale area more.
Yeah, so I think that was always an unfair thing where people be like, oh, it wasn't close to Miami. Like that wasn't the fan base you were looking for anyway. The more of the suburban people that eventually are going to put their kids in hockey was always going to be out there anyway. So I think it took a little bit to get there, and obviously winning certainly helps, and obviously with Maurice too, right? Like from a Stars connection to try to, like, I know we're in the NHL news and notes, but like Pete DeBoer is coaching the Stars today because his pal Paul Maurice called him and said, "Hey, I need an assistant coach. You want to do this while you also happen to be studying law during the day?" So there's a strong Stars connection with all the Maurice stuff too, even though he's never been a Stars coach.
And they'll face each other 2 games in a row in a couple of weeks' time in Finland as the Stars and Panthers play in the Global Series. Last thing for us today, because we are out of time, Sean Durzi of the Utah Hockey Club could be out the rest of the season. He's projected for a 4 to 6 month recovery from shoulder surgery that he was injured against the New Jersey Devils on October 14th. Doesn't look like it's going to be very quick for him. And they also lose John Marino, who had a back procedure. He is going to be out 3 to 4 months. Luddy, that's a big problem for the Utah Hockey Club to lose 2 of their potentially top 3 or 4 defensemen.
Yeah, but the kind of style that they play, I think that they can overcome it. To me, that seems like a team that it's a community. You know what I mean? It's a group effort, and it's not developed and it's not built around the 1 or 2 superstars. From what I see early on,
I'm just curious to see Utah down the line, because this is one of those situations. I think Elliot Friedman talked about it too, where you don't want to jump the gun and make a bad deal that maybe helps your team for the next 4 months, but hurts you long term. And we've seen so many of those deals in NHL history. So I'm just curious to see if Utah really attacks that, because there's some guys out there. There's a few defensemen that are going to be available or are already notably available, but I'm interested to see how much they look to really make themselves better this year and going forward.
And lastly, on the injury front, I just found this out. Sean, Robert Thomas of the St. Louis Blues was placed on injured reserve today. He has a fractured ankle after blocking a shot last night against the Winnipeg Jets. He will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. And when we were talking about the Blues and what they were hopeful for this season, a lot of it surrounded a good, strong offensive season from Robert Thomas.
Yeah, he really drives everything for that team. Like he's a guy we've seen come into his own and go from that young impact player to someone that everything runs through as a legit number 1 center. So that's a big loss for them. So.
All right. So on the dour news of injuries, we will wrap up our show today. But
wait. You're not
going
to let me rain. You're not going to let me rain on the Frozen Frenzy parade.
Oh, I forgot you wanted to rant. Okay, we're way past time. To your soapbox, please.
It's not a rant, but it's the whole fact of the matter is where it is a rant. Fine. The league is the league is taking a massive victory lap today about how on Tuesday, October 22nd, they were able to get 16 games played with staggered start times, and it's something that apparently we all have to celebrate and everything. But it's in classic NHL fashion. It's something that we did on October 22nd. Against night 1 of the NBA regular season, and therefore in the larger sports scale, it actually is getting buried by LeBron James' son playing 2.5 minutes of NBA basketball, and the league doesn't learn from any of this. Like they did this last year. This isn't a new idea. This isn't a victory lap the way it was last year when they tried something new, and now. You have 1 game tonight, a bad game. That's the second game of a back-to-back for both teams. It was last night. Everything is allegedly supposed to be about growing the game. Last night didn't grow the game at all. It was just it was just schedule condensation that hurt things. So I know the Frozen Frenzy was supposed to be this thing that we're all celebrating and putting up and everything like that in hockey media. I just apparently missed the memo, because I can't look at it and be like, see, you can go through and do something fun this time, but you can't go and figure out ways to do this on a Saturday or make better scheduling then. It's very NHL to me we're all taking a victory lap over something where the bar is so low of just putting games at different start times.
Doesn't help, Sean, that game the night before, the Leafs game, was blacked out to pretty much 90% of the country because it was on NHL Network.
Well, yeah, and if you want to get me really going, like let's just talk about NHL Network not being available to stream anywhere, right? Like that is only available to try and go watch a game on NHL Network now, and 2 teams that are one Toronto and Tampa, one team that's won a cup in recent years, another team that's got a good young American, good American player in Austin Matthews, and I can't go and watch that game easily in the United States when it's the only game and you're trying to build up this whole thing on Tuesday. There's so much about this sport sometimes and the way it's run where I just wish we would take the lessons of what went well and what didn't and actually apply them instead of being like, oh, great, look at us. Let's pat ourselves on the back. In October of next year, we'll have staggered starts times again. So, sorry.
And Letty, that was the other thing that Sean said to me offline, which was they do the stagger starts yesterday. Tomorrow there's 9 games.
All at 7 o'clock?
All 5 of the
All at
early
7
windows
o'clock.
start at the
All at
exact same
7.
time. So it means they're all going to be at intermission basically at the same time. So you can't switch back and forth if you want to watch multiple games at, one's done. Okay, we'll go see what's here for, stagger start. Something's playing at all times.
Which is so.
I agree
seems
100%
easy.
with Sean. I think it's useless.
It seems so easy.
It's useless.
15-minute break. I don't know. I don't get it either. I'm with you.
All right.
Befuddled.
Thank you for your rant, Sean, today. I appreciate it. And
Good rant.
well, you're going to be on Saturdays pre and post for the Chicago game, correct?
Yes, Saturday. Yes, that is the
Perfect.
plan.
Set your calendar. Sean rants again on Saturday. Or
I
just
mean,
stop
now
talking.
I have to come slightly prepped because I didn't know that John was going to ding me with with something
That was
from,
awesome.
with a whole package from something from 2.5 weeks ago or
That was the
whatever it
best. That was the
No,
best
not
sin bin
only
so
was it
far. I love the
hilarious,
highlights.
It was when Sam brought up that we should then debate Sean's projections of hypothetical lines for next year, and he starts rolling his eyes and getting hurt. That was the ultimate punishment. It couldn't have scripted that any better.
It was beautiful.
All right. So thank you to Pete Blackburn for joining us today for our full show, including the current agent of chaos, John Anderson, for Sean Shapiro, Craig Ludwig, Sam Nestler, I'm Owen Newkirk. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow night at 5:30 for the pregame show. Stars and Sabres at 6. Should we hear from UPL one more time to send us off? John, is it at your fingertips?
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
We all silly like the mayor.